I'll be going through the answers quickly, so make sure your course book is open and in front of you, and please stop and rewind the video as you need to. So, got your book open in front of you? Are your answers in capitals? Want to know why the answers are the answers? Then let's go. For question number 1, if we have a look at the language pattern, we can see that it says the most, then we've got our gap, preserved animal of its kind. Now the position of this gap just before the adjective tells us that this answer, or the answer that we need, could be one of two things. It could either be an adjective in terms of an adjective string, or it could be an adverb which modifies the following adjective. If we have a look at the answer from the point of view of being an adjective, well, if we have a look at the stem word, we can see that it is an adjective, which means that the only adjective that we could use is a negative form of that adjective, which is imperfect, and that doesn't fit the context here. Which means that we have to assume that this is going to be an adverb, and if that's the case, the answer that we need is perfectly. For question number 2, the key word here is the word before the gap, because this is a word that suggests possession of something, in other words, possession of a noun. Whatever this gap is a noun that belongs to Genya, and we can see this because of the possessive apostrophe and s. So what we need here is a noun, and generally when we're talking about things left over from dinosaurs or indeed people, we always refer to it in the plural sense. We never say Genya's remain, we say Genya's remains, which is why remains is the answer. Question number 3, something that we've seen time and time again. After certain prepositions, if you have a gap, the chances are it's going to be a noun. And after the preposition for, if there is a gap, then chances are it's going to be a noun. And that's exactly what we need here. And if we take the noun from the stem word, we get the answer analysis. Question number 4, which is gap smaller? So the word we need here has to modify smaller. In other words, we need an adverb to modify the adjective. If we have a look at the stem word, we can see that the stem word is consider. The adverb therefore must be considerably. Question number 5. Look at the language pattern we've got here. It says that made him gap for fights. In other words, the word that we've got to choose here has to modify the status, or his status, or rather the Genya's status, because we're talking about Genya here. So in other words, we need an adjective to modify that status. And that adjective that we need is unfit, given the context that we're presented with. For question number 6, we can see that the word before the gap is an adjective, and we know that adjectives modify nouns. So we know that this is going to be a noun. But which noun? Is it going to be singular or plural? Well, the key here is in the few words beforehand, mammoths. Mammoths is a plural form, so therefore we must also be talking about human hunters. Question number 7, easy peasy. We've got an article before the gap. We don't have the noun to which that article refers, which means that this gap must be a noun. So if we have a look at the stem word, it's confront. The noun we need is confrontation. For question 8, the language pattern is this. Were driven to plus noun. So we need a noun here. What were they driven to? They were driven to extinction.